ਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਸਰੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਖਰੀਦੀਆਂ ਜਾ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਸਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਫੀ ਵਾਦ ਵਿਵਾਦ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਸਿਟੀ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀਜ਼ ਖਰੀਦਦੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਕਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀਜ਼ ਉਹ ਸਿੱਧੇ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਖਰੀਦਦੇ ਨੇ ਅਤੇ ਕਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀਜ਼ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਸਰੀ ਦੀ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਕਾਰਪੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਉਹਦੇ ਤੋਂ ਖਰੀਦਦੇ ਨੇ। ਹੁਣ ਲੇਟਲੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੰਟਰੋਵਰਸੀ ਚੱਲੀ ਹੈ ਦੋ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀਜ਼ ਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇੱਕ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀ ਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ 10,000 ਸੀਟਾਂ ਵਾਲਾ ਅਰੀਨਾ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ 103 ਤੇ ਕਿੰਗ ਜੌਰਜ ਅਤੇ ਸੇਫਵੇ ਵਾਲੀ ਸਾਈਟ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ, ਅਤੇ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ 152 75 80 152 ਸਟਰੀਟ 'ਤੇ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਖਰੀਦੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਇਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹ ਅੱਗੇ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ। ਸਟਾਰ ਚੱਕ ਜੁਡੀਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਰਿਵਿਊ ਮੰਗ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਅਤੇ ਡਗ ਮਕੱਲਮ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਦੀ ਇੰਡੀਪੈਂਡੈਂਟ ਤਫਤੀਸ਼ ਕਰਵਾਈ ਜਾਏ ਔਰ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਏਜੰਸੀਜ਼ ਅਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਦੇਖ ਰੇਖ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਏ। ਅੱਜ ਜੋਈ ਬਰਾੜ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਜਨਰਲ ਮੈਨੇਜਰ ਨੇ ਕਾਰਪੋਰੇਟ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਅਤੇ ਰੀਅਲ ਸਟੇਟ ਦੇ ਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ, ਉਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਟੂਡੀਓਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੇ। ਬਰਾੜ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਆਇਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ ਜੀ, ਵੈਲਕਮ।
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ।
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਪਹਿਲੀ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਦੱਸੋ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀ ਖਰੀਦੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ 75 80 152 ਸਟਰੀਟ, ਜਿਸ ਦਾ ਪਾਰਸਲ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੰਬਰ ਹੈ 0005333246, ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀ ਦੀ ਖਰੀਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਦੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਲਾਈ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਕਿਉਂ ਖਰੀਦੀ ਹੈ? ਇਸ ਦੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਫੈਕਟਸ ਨੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਲ ਆਏ ਹੋਏ ਉਹ ਇਹ ਆ ਕਿ ਇਹਦੀ ਅਸੈਸਮੈਂਟ BC ਦੀ ਅਸੈਸਮੈਂਟ 3.2 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਸੀ, ਫਿਰ ਇਹ ਲਿਸਟ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਸ ਹੋਈ 4.5 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ, ਫਿਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਸਰੀ ਨੇ 6.8 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਟੈਕਸ ਪੇਅਰਸ ਦੀ ਮਨੀ ਕਿਉਂ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ?
Sir, okay, so let me just explain my role. I'm not a political person, I'm staff. I've worked at the city for 17 years. I have a number of divisions in my area of responsibility, including real estate services. So I'm a direct participant in this as I'm a representative of the city, so I can give you the facts in a very unbiased way. And so there's a lot of inaccurate information in the statement that was put out by that gentleman. I'll give you the facts. So this property has been owned by the same company since January 2022. The city purchased it direct from that company in June of this year. There was no middleman, there was no contract assignment. When that company purchased that property in January 2022, they purchased it for $6 million. That's a matter of public record. It's at BC Land Title. Whenever there's a property ownership change, it's registered. So they purchased it for $6 million, and the assessed value at the time was $2.65 million. So they themselves acknowledge that the market value is greater than the assessed value, given the facts of that transaction. Now, 4 years later, for almost 4.5 years later, the city purchased that same property direct from that company for $6.8 million. And the assessed value is, I believe, $2.9 million. So in our view, there's nothing remarkable about this transaction. In fact, it represents very good value for taxpayers. We've gained a 13-acre parcel in the heart of the city for $6.8 million. Typically, when you look at our parkland acquisitions, we're paying $5-6 million for an acre. In fact, we purchased 3/4 of an acre just steps away from this property for $5.2 million. It was a court-ordered distress sale, and that property was assessed at $2.8 million.
Okay, Mr. Brar, when was this property completed?
This was completed on June 30th, I believe.
So I have pulled the title on this property. This certificate title may be affected by Agricultural Land Commission Act. So it's a ALR property?
It's ALR, but it has a unique zoning. So it's zone CPG, which is golf course. And approximately only 2% of the land in Surrey is within this zoning. So these kind of properties don't become very available. You may have, on occasion, a full golf course for sale. I can't think of any within Surrey that's happened recently. However, we don't need a full golf course. The fact that this was a subdivided 13-acre parcel within this zone makes for a very good option as a playing field. That's what ultimately this is going to be used for.
What is the practice of the city and your department? how do you determine that this is good deal for the taxpayers? Do you depend on colliers only?
No. So we have an extensive diligence process. We don't enter into these types of deals haphazardly. We do a lot of diligence. In fact, we've worked on this property for 5 months. So it first came to our attention at the end of last year. We had, and these are all matters of record. Anyone can do a Freedom of Information Act. We've met with the Agricultural Land Commission to ensure that they would support using this property as a playing field. We have preliminary support. We hired engineers to do an assessment of the property. We hired design consultants to ensure that a cricket pitch would fit onto the property and potentially a kabaddi field. We hired an environmental consultant. There's a couple of small man-made ponds on there. We wanted to make sure those could be infilled. We hired an appraisal team from Colliers, and we use teams from, there's probably about 5 or 6 different appraisers that we use. Colliers is probably the most recognized within Canada, the top company, and so we use them in this case.
In this case, or usually you use collier?
We used Colliers on many occasions. We've used Colliers, we've used Avison and Young, we've used Philip Law, we've used CPCW. There's probably about 5 or 6 that we've used.
So you mentioned kabaddi. So kabaddi only or cricket and kabaddi?
It is cricket. The problem with, we could get a kabaddi field on there as well. The problem we're dealing with right now is parking, because some of these kabaddi tournaments draw thousands of spectators. So we're trying to wrestle with the parking issue, but for sure we can establish a cricket pitch, and that's what we're working towards.
I was talking to some cricketers. Okay. Cricket experts tell me that this is not an appropriate piece of land for cricket grounds. Have you studied that?
Yeah.
If you have purchased this property on the basis that you're going to build a cricket pitch, then it's not fit for that.
Well, we've hired a design team. It's gone to our parks department that establishes playing fields all over the city, and they've deemed it to be appropriate for cricket. Now, the other thing we have to understand is the city owns another 90 acres just south of this parcel. Mm-hmm. So it's contiguous to that. It makes for a total of over 100 acres. So if the cricket pitch, if they're saying an official cricket pitch won't fit on this 13 acres, well, the good news is we have another 90 acres right to the south of it, so we have plenty of room.
One more question about the property on 103 and King George. Former Mayor Doug McCullum is calling the land swap a bailout for a developer, alleging that the city exchanged valuable income-generating assets for declining condo development site. How does you respond to that and justify this purchase?
Well, I wasn't involved directly in that deal. That was a Surrey City Development Corp. They have the mandate to establish the arena and the entertainment district. So I'll leave comment to Bill Odula from SCDC. However, I will say I believe that was a good deal. That is probably the top property in the city for establishing an entertainment district. And the value that was exchanged, I mean, there was a lot of rigor done. There was multiple appraisals. Ernst & Young, a top consulting firm, went and evaluated the deal, and they deemed it to be appropriate.
What infuriates the citizens of Surrey is that there's no uniformity. Sometimes you purchase properties directly, and sometimes you purchase properties through SCDC, the Development Corporation. And people are very suspicious when you purchase a property through SCDC, considering the previous record of this Development Corporation. So why did you not purchase this property through SCDC, this 152nd property, and why did you purchase that property on King George through SCDC? What is the reasoning?
Sir, it's apples and oranges. The complexity of establishing an arena, entertainment district, convention space, hotel, public plaza, the complexity of that deal and the dollar value involved, that needs a different level of capability. And so SCDC has the professionals to do that. There's nothing remarkable about this purchase. It's a straightforward park purchase. We probably do 10 of these a year. It's not it's a very straightforward transaction.
How many more properties you're purchasing directly?
We have a parkland acquisition plan. We have areas in the city that are designated as parkland, and that is established through our official community plan and neighborhood concept plans that council approves. Those are public documents for everybody to see. And eventually, as properties become available, we will purchase those properties to establish parks in the city. So there's a number of them. I mean, you can go look up any neighborhood community plan and you see where it's shaded green. That's where we're trying to establish parks.
So are you purchasing another property or have you purchased another property, $10.9 million purchase price in August 2025?
You'll have to be specific. Where exactly was it?
In Surrey,
Well, yeah, I assume that.
on 152nd.
On 152nd.
Have you
That
purchased?
doesn't ring a bell, no.
Okay, anything in closing, anything you'd like to say to our listeners today? Because a lot of people are very suspicious after this controversy has started about the purchase of lands, particularly, giving the complexity excuse, sometimes other things. You purchase property directly, sometimes you do not purchase the property directly through SCDC. What is the role of SCDC anyway?
The role of SCDC is to deal with complex transactions just like this, like the
this-
arena.
Where you want to build a cricket ground and kabaddi ground and it's an ALR, you want to develop that property, it's quite complex.
No, this is actually very straightforward for us. This is what we do as a city. We have a very robust parks department. They design parks, they acquire land for parks. All these parks in the city were done internally with our staff. So we have the capability and the know-how. You can appreciate that establishing a cricket pitch may be a little bit different in complexity from establishing a arena and entertainment district.
Do you negotiate sometimes or you pay the asking price?
We always negotiate and we try to get best value for taxpayers. In this case, we saved $1 million from the appraised value.
Mr. Brar, how can you reassure the residents of Surrey that there's no hanky-panky? People are very suspicious when you are purchasing these properties. It's done properly.
Yeah, there's a lot of inaccurate information put out by this gentleman. If I were a member of the public and I heard that a property was flipped after 2 weeks and somebody made $3 million, I'd be very concerned as well. That's a lie. It's a complete lie. That's not factual. So we go through a lot of diligence before we purchase properties. We do third-party independent appraisals. We have internal appraisers in-house that vet those reports to make sure that proper methodology was followed. And in fact, in the last 2 years, when you look at our property transactions, we have come in under appraised values by approximately $20 million.
But records show
Yes.
that Mr. Bonsal's share were purchased at a cheaper price than this gentleman. I know, I have his name also. He sold you that property for $3 million more. What do you call it, a flip or a signing a contract?
No.
Doesn't matter how many fancy names you have, it's basically a flip.
That's not factual. So if there were some internal dealings between the partners and share transfers, that's unknown to us. And we don't care. That's their business as partners. If he feels he was burned by his partners, that's none of our business. That may be the case. Has nothing to do with us. We bought this property $1 million under appraised. We're establishing a cricket field for the community. They bought it for $6 million 4 years ago. We bought it for $6.8 million.
Would you continue using SCDC or are you going to buy the properties directly, complex or no complex? Because you have due diligence people, you have more capable people than you have for SCDC, and you use them, you said. So you can use 1, 2 at taxpayers' cost. Why you use SCDC?
Sir, that's not my decision. What council establishes the mandate for SCDC. And the fact is, no, we don't have that same capability in-house to establish an arena entertainment district. This is unprecedented for the city. So, yeah, we don't have that ability. Buying parkland, establishing parks, we do that all day. That's not an issue.
Mr. Brar, anything else that I couldn't ask you and you want to say?
I just want to clear up one thing, the difference between assessed value and market value, the actual purchase price. This is not unusual that there's a difference between the assessed value, in this case it's 2.9, and the purchase price of 6.8. It's not unusual. Recently, the city sold a piece of property to BC Hydro for $6.5 million so they can establish a power substation in city centre. It was assessed at $3.5 million. TransLink just bought a $44 million property. It was assessed at $34 million. They bought another $7 million property that was assessed at 3.9. I have a personal acquaintance that bought a farm property for 5.4 million. It was assessed at 375,000. They serve two different functions. One is for taxation. That's the assessed value. The market value is a reflection of what somebody would pay, what the property is worth on the open market.
Mr. Joey Brar, thank you very much for coming in and explaining this. And I really appreciate your clarification.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.